Good morning, I'm Amit Thakral and let's begin with the top stories of this hour. Corruption rampant in both judiciary and Nepal army due to lack of transparency and effectiveness of regulating entities. Supreme Court in operation with the acting Chief Justice for over a month, constitutional provision remains ignored. French President Emmanuel Macron says he convinced US President Donald Trump not to withdraw troops from Syria and instead commit for the long term. And Manchester City wins the English Premier League as second-placed Manchester United suffer a shock 1-0 home defeat to bottom club West Bromwich Albion. Mother's Day or Mata Tirtha as per the Nepalese calendar is being observed across the country today. The day is about acknowledging and paying respect to the care and unconditional love bestowed by mothers to their children. Children offer their mothers their favorite delicacies, clothes or other kinds of gifts to observe the day. People also pay their homage to their deceased mother on the day. Mother's Day celebration is not confined to any certain religion, but is particularly observed by Hindu community across the nation. Now let's move on to national political updates. The report presented earlier by the Office of Auditor General had raised serious questions on financial discipline of the Supreme Court and Nepal Army. However, due to its limited jurisdiction, the Commission for Investigation of Abuse of Authority is unable to probe into financial irregularities within both the institutions. Despite the presence of separate entities to regulate these authorities, lack of transparency and effectiveness of these regulating entities has resulted into rampant corruption. As per the report lodged by the Office of the Auditor General, the outstanding amounts of the Apex Court and 92 of its units for the last fiscal year stand at 131.3 million rupees. Irregularities at the judiciary range from abuse of government vehicles, travel expenditures, and encouragement allowances, among others. The report also unveiled a significant amount of financial irregularity in the Ministry of Defense. The ministry has been ranked at the 6th position among 10 different ministries mired in financial indiscipline. A significant portion of the budget allocated for the Ministry of Defense is spent for the Nepal Army. Based on the report, there were irregularities seen during the constructions of the Army Hospital, as well as the purchase and distribution of daily ration for its personnel, among others. As per the report, the Army released 4.7 million rupees to the contractor company by submitting a fake report on the completion of the building meant for its Gorak battalion. Only preliminary works of the building have been completed so far. Despite the evidence of irregularity within the Army, the Ministry of Defense, which is supposed to investigate the matter, has consistently appeared helpless in this regard.
कि बुझ्नु भएन प्रधानमन्त्रीले बुझ्ने हो भन्देखि त्यो ठिक भएको त्यो छानबिन चाहिँ हुनै पर्छ किन भन्दाखेरि तपाईले व्यक्तिलाई माया गर्ने कुरा हैन यो त संस्थाको कुरा आउँछ यसमा चीनमा तपाईको चाहिँ ठुलठुलो सेनापतिलाई अथवा तपाईको त्यो सेना हेर्ने मान्छेलाई चाहिँ कारबाही गरिएको छ भ्रष्टाचारमा गरिएको छ अरु देशमा गरिएको छ भन्दाखेरि हाम्रा केही प्रक्रियागत गल्तीहरू छन् जसले सेनालाई भएर पनि नभएर पनि तपाईको गनौनी तपाईको नालीमा फसेराको छ प्रक्रियाहरू.
As there is no provision of independent investigation of the Supreme Court and the Nepal Army as in other high-profile authorities, the persons in command in these entities themselves should be accountable to all sorts of malpractices. The court and the Nepal Army are both powerful and sensitive authorities for the very region. The right to probe into irregularities within these entities has also granted to themselves. However, the government could tighten the budget allocated to these authorities if the trust of the state bestowed upon them is abused. Financial indiscretion is also a kind of corruption. Thus, it's crucial on the part of the concerned authorities to contain it. It's obvious that irregularities in the court and the army are likely to further deteriorate if there is no intervention whatsoever to curb the misconduct. As per the constitutional provision, appointment of a new Chief Justice should be made within 30 days after the position is vacant. Supreme Court, however, has been run by an acting Chief Justice for more than a month now since the then Chief Justice, Gopal Parajuli, was relieved from his position. The court has not been able to hold the meeting of its Constitutional Council as of yet. Despite the Council recommending 3 names for the post, the appointment process has failed to move forward. This shows how the state mechanism has been mired in widespread mismanagement. Apart from some exceptions, most of the government's procedures are completed within stipulated duration. Legal experts are of the opinion that delay in appointment at such a crucial body would lead to negative consequences in terms of justice delivery. Foreign Minister Pradeep Gawali is embarking for his 6-day official visit to China today evening. Besides preparations for Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's proposed visit to the northern neighbor, the visit is also expected to force basis of implementation of former bilateral agreements with China. Nepal has been unable to reap anticipated benefits from the transit agreement reached between the two nations due to failure of its implementation. Upon assuming premiership for the first time 2 years ago, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli had forced a 10-point agreement with the northern neighbor. Among the agreements, the most talked about was the Nepal-China Transit Agreement. But the agreement has failed to get implemented via formation of a bilateral mechanism. The first bilateral meeting held in November 2016 aimed at laying foundation for the agreement's implementation also failed to come up with a protocol. The Nepalese side even sent a preliminary draft regarding agreement's implementation. The Chinese government, however, has not made any response to it as of yet. Thus, it's both a challenge and opportunity for the Prime Minister, who is shortly paying an official visit to China to move ahead the agreement at the execution level. Analysts opine that it's also crucial to ensure implementation of agreements with China in order to maintain a balanced bilateral relationship and lead Nepal's economy towards prosperity. Nepal will be able to import goods from third countries via the Chinese tri-port, along with railway and roads in case the transit and transport with China is implemented. Till date, Nepal has been using the Indian land to import goods from third countries. The proposed regulation of the Federal Parliament has arrangements to hold the government accountable towards the Parliament and also to ensure an efficient parliamentary system. If the regulation is approved without amendment, the Prime Minister himself would be answerable to the questions raised by the parliamentarians. Following the endorsement of the regulation of the House of Representatives, parliamentarians will have the opportunity of questioning the Prime Minister twice a month. The regulation includes a provision that requires the Prime Minister to answer questions of public interest. Other parliamentary affairs are to be set aside on the day of such interaction. The practice, considered as very efficient and interesting, was also implemented during the 18-month tenure of the first elected parliament 6 decades back. However, prime ministers since then have remained largely unaccountable towards the parliamentary affairs. In addition to that, there are numerous instances where the parliamentary proceedings fail to materialize because of the absence of ministers. The interaction or questioning of the Prime Minister is a popular practice in countries that have been practicing parliamentary system, such as Great Britain and India, among others. The new regulation is to include a provision for an hour of interaction right at the beginning of the Parliament session. As per the provision, the related ministers must answer the questions raised by parliamentarians within 3 days. The regulation, which is still under consideration, is also to include a provision that will require a 2/3 majority at the joint meeting of the Federal Parliament to file an impeachment motion against President and the Vice President. Likewise, constitutional amendments signing of treaties and emergency period are to be endorsed with 2/3 majority in separate sessions of the two houses. However, agreement remains to be forced regarding discussion on the proceedings of the Supreme Court at the Parliamentary Committee. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked the residents of Butwal and Palpa regarding what they think should be done to address the issues regarding drinking water. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public Voice.
विवाद छ भने विवाद मिलाउनु पर्छ राजनीतिक दलहरु मिलेर बसेर कसरी हुन्छ बुटलमा चाहिँ सफा र स्वस्थ पानी पिउनु पर्छ
स्थानीयहरुले मागे भन्दैमा सबै मागहरु पूरा गर्न त सकिदैन तर चाहिँ दलहरु बसेर एक आपसमा सहमति भएर चाहिँ पानी ल्याउनु पर्छ
जनताको मर्का पर्ने गरी अर्काको जमिन मागिदिनु पनि पाइएन।
खानेपानीको लागि त कसैले पनि त्यो नै नभन्न पर्ने कुरा हो, तर पनि कसरी हुन्छ अब अन्डरग्राउन्ड गरेर हुन्छ कि कसरी हुन्छ, कसैलाई पनि चाहिँ मर्का नपर्ने हिसाबले खानेपानी ल्याउनु पर्छ।
And it's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
And the question is, what's necessary to curb corruption in the judiciary and Nepal army? And options are A, jurisdiction of corruption watchdog, and B, effective regulation. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A or B and send it to 8080 to share your opinion with us. Now the international update. French President Emmanuel Macron has said he convinced US President Donald Trump not to withdraw troops from Syria and instead commit for the long term. Earlier this month, Mr. Trump declared that the US would be coming out of Syria very soon. On Saturday, joint US, UK and French strikes targeted Syrian government sites in response to an alleged chemical weapons attack. Mr. Macron said he also persuaded Mr. Trump to keep the strikes limited. The pair, who are reported to have a friendly relationship, spoke multiple times in the days before the military action was taken. After Mr. Macron's comments, White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders said the US mission has not changed. The president has been clear that he wants US forces to come home as quickly as possible. But she added that the US was determined to completely crush the Islamic State group and prevent its return. Announcing the strikes in an address to the nation on Friday evening in Washington, Mr. Trump insisted that America does not seek an indefinite presence in Syria under no circumstances. The U.S. has about 2,000 personnel on the ground in eastern Syria, supporting an alliance of Kurdish and Arab militias called the Syrian Democratic Forces. Manchester City have won the English Premier League as second-placed Manchester United suffered a shock 1-0 home defeat by bottom club West Bromwich Albion. United had to at least draw to keep the title race mathematically alive, but were stunned at Old Trafford when Jay Rodriguez headed home after the break. A week after City surrendered a 2-0 lead to lose 3-2 to United and squander the chance to wrap up the title in perfect style against their arch-rivals. It was relegation-bound West Brom who served it up on a plate. West Brom had lost 8 of the previous 9 games and last one on January 13. City, who rebounded from the United loss by beating Tottenham Hotspur on Saturday, have 87 points with 5 games left. United have 71 with 5 to play as well. It is Abu Dhabi-owned City's third title in 7 seasons and the first since former boss Manuel Pellegrini achieved the feat in 2013 to 2014. Towards La Liga, Real Madrid have gone up to third place in the league table after defeating Malaga at the latter's home ground 2-1. Real had taken the lead in the 29th minute through Isco's goal, double later by Casemiro in the 63rd minute. Diego Roland gave a consolation goal for Malaga in the injury time. However, his last-minute attempt was not enough to save the host. Real now has 67 points from 32 matches, while league leaders Barcelona have 82 points. Second-placed Atletico Madrid have 71 points. And that's all for this hour. Keep watching Kantipur TV SD for more news and entertainment. Goodbye for now.